In the opening to this video series, we claimed that we would specify a new transportation system we called NETS that would be safe, somewhat faster, and much cheaper and cleaner than the current system that we call CUTS. We have proven that NETS would have few, if any, collisions in any year, have 24/7 on-demand departures with door-to-door trip times always less than CUTS, and for trips of 20 to 500 kilometers take about 25% of the CUTS times, have costs per vehicle kilometer that are less than 10% of CUTS, even with the much higher average speeds, and have total emissions from operations and asset builds that are less than 1% of CUTS. Further, there is no technical or financial impediment to a 2028 to 2030 NETS deployment. We have shown that the fundamental problem with CUTS is the implicit assumption that we must use large vehicles that are mostly more than 10 times the mass of their passengers or goods cargoes. Consider how slow your internet would be if for every unit of data you receive or send, the system requires 10 times more data to carry it. All the NETS benefits are only possible because its primary vehicles are small but comfortable and mostly less massive than their typical cargo. The exception is planes, which NETS uses primarily for intercontinental passenger trips. Do you want to be able to travel anywhere in the world on a moment's notice, rapidly, completely safely, nearly freely, and with very little environmental impact? Or do you want to own a big and very heavy vehicle that has serious inherent limitations in all those areas, is mostly limited to shorter trips, and whose ownership costs form a large part of most households' expenditures? NETS provides the former. CUTS is limited to the latter. The big fixes for CUTS issues are constrained by the vehicle size characteristics. The benefit of CUTS electric vehicles is about a 70% reduction in vehicle consumption per vehicle kilometer and potentially in greenhouse gas emissions. Those benefits require the electricity they use to be generated from non-fossil fuels. But a large fraction of that reduction comes from the dynamic braking capability they share with hybrid vehicles. Until the electricity supply is green, hybrids would present a better solution to greenhouse gas emission reductions than full electrics. CUTS-based autonomous vehicles, when they become deployable, would address the driver error causes of collisions. While that would save many lives and reduce injuries, it is of far less benefit when the collision cause is pedestrian, cyclist, or third-party error. But what about the perceived downsides of NETS? An operational NETS would eliminate most existing CUTS and CUTS vehicle energy systems related jobs and profits. In the US, that is more than 10% of the labor force. The businesses in these areas are also among the largest and most profitable today. They would no longer be viable. Also, CUTS vehicles and other assets become redundant, and that must be dealt with. The indirect NETS benefits would produce large reductions in the resources needed, including human labor, to perform many operations in most non-transportation applications. In our indirect cost effects video, linked here, we have specified one aspect of this, with respect to the use of fine-grained services including per-use rentals. Such services are enabled by NETS' ability to move objects on demand with sub-cent delivery or pickup fees, if any, and sub-minute responses, within settlements and where demand justifies it. CUTS times and costs are at least an order of magnitude higher, eliminating most of the potential for such services. An example of such a service would be one that cleans all meal preparation and dining objects. All such objects, for all meals, could be cleaned for under $10 per capita per year. The cleaning service would be fully automated and resource efficient. A single service could replace the need for all dishwashing equipment and operating expenses, including labor, in all residences, restaurants, and institutional kitchens in the area it serves. Further, the use of those objects would not be limited to those locations, but could occur anywhere with a nearby land goods loop. With very few exceptions, the fine-grained services would be owned by households. These would operate out of spaces like the CUTS garages that are no longer needed for CUTS vehicles. The spaces would have appropriate land goods loops installed. Most of these fine-grained services and all per-use rental ones would be fully automated. As an example, all dispensary services, including the per-use rental ones, would use machines that are similar in many ways to today's vending machines with attached loops. Food dispensaries would replace current grocery stores with small automated services providing on-demand deliveries. The dispensing and all deliveries and pickups would have sub-cent costs. All Nets goods shipments, including those carrying items to and from all these services, are carried in reusable Nets boxes with reusable padding specific to the characteristics of the items being carried. This eliminates the need for all disposable or even recyclable packaging and shipping boxes or bags. The associated packaging-related business and jobs are no longer needed. Further, the associated waste management is no longer needed. In cases like the food cleaning service, the boxes and padding would also be cleaned as needed. Further, food waste collection would be performed by the cleaning service. The cleaning service could forward it to other services performing composting or some other use. Per-use rental objects would include clothing, all meal preparation and serving objects, interior or exterior residence maintenance objects like vacuum cleaners and lawnmowers, and hobby-related objects like sports equipment, games, and do-it-yourself tools. The main category of objects not typically available for per-use rentals would be personal items like phones and drinking cups, furniture, housing, and keepsake items. The owners of the rental objects would mostly be individuals, households, or groups of households. When such parties perceive a demand for an object not available to them from the rental services, with a delivery time and cost that they would find acceptable, they could purchase it and add it to the rental stock. We describe in the service video how the purchase cost would also be diminished by at least 3 times. Over time, the stock of rental objects and their locations within the network of rental services would reach a level that satisfies the demand. That state would remain until the object dies or becomes obsolete. Note that once an improved object is developed, the rental mechanism allows a much more rapid diffusion through the market of potential users than is possible with the purchase for exclusive personal use model. For the categories noted, the number of items in the stock would be less than 10% of today, where the objects are purchased for exclusive personal or household use. There would be a corresponding reduction, actually greater, in the number of objects that need to be produced and the resources consumed in that process. The existing stocks of the objects in the per-use rental categories would seed the rental stock. We have specified a model in which the cost per rental would mostly be sub-cent plus a profit for the rental service and object owner, and a fair mechanism for repaying the capital cost of the object. That capital repayment, using a rebate mechanism, ensures that all renters at any time would have paid the same amount, which would be the capital cost divided by the number of rentals that have occurred. That would also be the amount of the purchase cost that has not been repaid to the owner at that time. This means that for each $100 of capital cost, the repayment portion of the fee after 10, 100, and 1,000 rentals would be $10, $1, and 10 cents respectively. The rebates to the renters mean that even though the 10th renter would pay $10 originally, they would have received $9 in rebates by the 100th rental and $9.90 by the 1,000th. Correspondingly, the object owner would have received $99 and $99.90 of their original $100 payment for the object. Note that the rebate mechanism means renters essentially become co-investors in the object, at least to the degree of getting back most of their rental fee. There are other advantages of the per-use rental model. Consider clothing. When a person wakes up today, they go to their closet and drawers to choose what they will wear. In the rental model, they would choose from any available clothing in the rental stock, satisfying their delivery time and cost requirements. They could make this choice, then proceed to any morning rituals like a shower, and by the time they are finished, the items would have been delivered. If the rituals take 20 minutes, all the clothing rental stock within even the largest city would be options. If they wanted more unusual items based on style or sizes, they could place the order the night before, and it would have been delivered by the time they wake. For those people who follow style trends and like to look stylish, as soon as they identify a design they like, and it is not available in the rental stock in their area, they can purchase it and place it in the rental stock. This model allows the items to be used many times before they go out of style. This is the clothing-specific example of the obsolescence and rapid diffusion pattern we noted earlier. The device they use to place the order would know their body dimensions and style preferences, and would use those in the search through the appropriate stock. The same device could show them how the items would look on them, if they desired that input in making their choices. Upon removing the items at the end of the day, they would send them back to the rental services via a clothes cleaning service. If something is spilled on a garment, or for any other reason they choose to change clothes during the day, they could order replacements and change to them once they arrive. The original items would again be returned to the rental stock through a cleaning service. Jackets and other items used to deal with weather when outside that are rented would require more rapid delivery, but if the average time spent outside is 30 minutes, each outside garment could be rented 10 to 20 times per day. Such rental rates and the general durability of such garments would produce very low per-use fees. For each $100 of total garment costs a person wears each day, and if on average those items had 500 rentals, their annual clothing costs would be about $70. The person would still usually own their favorite items, especially shoes, sleepwear, or other comfortable items worn inside the home. These would add to the rental costs. However, there is no longer a need for large closets, dressers, and in-house clothes cleaning facilities. Further, they would no longer have a stock of clothing that no longer fits them or whose styles they no longer wear. The elimination of the need for household storage applies to all per-use rental objects. What we have described is a world very different and better for all than today, but change is always opposed by social inertia. Change will often be most opposed by those who benefit most from the status quo, which are today's rich and/or powerful. But even those people would have an improved quality of life from nets and the basis for change it provides. For example, even if you find trip costs largely irrelevant, nets would still be safe, faster, and would have greatly reduced environmental impacts. The basis for non-transportation changes nets provides would allow for a much cleaner environment. Although negative environmental impacts fall disproportionately on the poor, the rich are not immune. The net's security mechanism makes it highly likely that anyone committing a physical crime would be caught and convicted. The privacy mechanism ensures that no person could obtain information through these mechanisms about any non-crime related movements of any other person. The high floor for quality of life also reduces many of the motivations to commit crimes. All people, even the wealthiest, would benefit from this enhanced security and privacy. In subsequent videos on our shelter system, we show that most people would have the ability to spend any time they like in comfortable residences anywhere in the world. While this exists today for the very richest, in a basis for change world, it would be available to any household which does not have commitments that tie it to a particular physical area. Imagine if parents with newborns were to spend the first N years of the child's life in M different locales. The exposure to different cultures for the children and parents would be a huge benefit in reducing all forms of tribalism. The details of the way in which these results could be achieved, like how nets was specified here, will be presented in subsequent videos or video series on this Basis for Change channel. There would likely be better ways, but these will set one realizable way. We will show that, if we commit to it, all these benefits could be achieved by 2030. I believe humans evolved as cooperative animals. Resource scarcity promotes competition, but a basis for change world would be an age of abundance. Abundance not in terms of money or objects we own for our exclusive use or enjoyment, but in terms of functionality. We can and should relegate win-lose situations to our games and sports, not our lives. Today's rules, particularly the production-oriented economic emphasis, greatly favor competition over cooperation. We need societal rules that promote cooperation over competition.